Hello and welcome to our continuing coverage of Russian President Vladimir Putin's visit to India. It marks a pivotal moment in the long-standing India-Russia partnership, with high-level talks delivering concrete outcomes in energy, defense and trade.
Indeed, President Putin arrived in New Delhi for the 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit last evening, his first state visit to India since 2021. He received a warm welcome by Prime Minister Modi, who later hosted him for a private dinner as well at his residence, setting the tone for discussions which unfolded at Hyderabad House earlier today.
Now, the summit's agenda proved to be extensive. The leaders announced steps to deepen economic ties, expand cooperation in oil and energy supplies, shipping, and explore new avenues in trade and investment as well as technology.
Yes, and this meeting has come at a time when Russia is navigating sanctions and shifting global alliances, while India is balancing its own strategic interests amid tensions with Western powers. For Moscow, New Delhi remains a dependable partner which has resisted Western pressure campaigns, while for India, Russia continues to be a critical supplier of energy and defense technology.
Indeed, the symbolism of President Putin's presence is significant. But beyond the optics, the summit has produced tangible agreements which reinforce the special and privileged strategic partnership between the two nations.
Well, let's quickly tell you all that has happened so far, where India and Russia signed several memorandums of understanding in the fields of healthcare, medical education and science. Other agreements which were signed include food safety cooperation, an MOU on training of ships operating in polar waters, exchange of information or movement of vehicles was also signed, apart from one on mobility. The leaders also adopted a joint statement and agreed to work on economic cooperation program till 2030.
Now, addressing a joint press statement, Prime Minister Modi said that in the last 2 decades, President Putin has nurtured India-Russia relationship and elevated mutual relations to new heights.
पिछले 8 दशकों में विश्व में अनेक उतार चढ़ाव आए। मानवता को अनेक चुनौतियों और संकटों से गुजरना पड़ा है, और इन सब के बीच भी भारत रूस मित्रता एक ध्रुव तारे की तरह बनी रही है। परस्पर सम्मान और गहरे विश्वास पर टिके ये संबंध समय की हर कसौटी पर हमेशा खरे उतरे हैं। आज हमने इस नींव को और मजबूत करने के लिए सहयोग के सभी पहलुओं पर चर्चा की।
And Prime Minister Modi also said that agreements have been signed in the fields of trade, investment and security. The PM added that both the sides have agreed on economic cooperation program till 2030.
आर्थिक सहयोग को नई ऊंचाइयों पर ले जाना हमारी साझी प्राथमिकता है। इसे साकार करने के लिए आज हमने 2030 तक के लिए एक इकोनॉमिक कोऑपरेशन प्रोग्राम पर सहमति बनाई है। इससे हमारा व्यापार और निवेश डाइवर्सिफाइड, बैलेंस और सस्टेनेबल बनेगा, और सहयोग के क्षेत्रों में नए आयाम भी जुड़ेंगे।
And Prime Minister Modi stressed that strengthening connectivity between the two countries remains a key priority. He said that cooperation in critical minerals is another important area for sustainable global supply chains.
ऊर्जा सुरक्षा भारत रूस साझेदारी का मजबूत और महत्वपूर्ण स्तंभ रहा है। सिविल न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी के क्षेत्र में हमारा दशकों पुराना सहयोग क्लीन एनर्जी की हमारी साझा प्राथमिकताओं को सार्थक बनाने में महत्वपूर्ण रहा है। हम इस विन विन सहयोग को जारी रखेंगे। क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स में हमारा सहयोग पूरे विश्व में सिक्योर और डाइवर्सिफाइड सप्लाई चेन सुनिश्चित करने के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है। इससे क्लीन एनर्जी, हाईटेक मैन्युफैक्चरिंग और न्यू एज इंडस्ट्रीज में हमारी साझेदारी को ठोस समर्थन मिलेगा।
India and Russia have also agreed to work together on vocational education, skilling as well as training. Prime Minister Modi also announced a 30-day e-tourist visa facility for Russian citizens.
मुझे खुशी है कि शीघ्र ही हम रूसी नागरिकों के लिए निःशुल्क 30 डे ई-टूरिस्ट वीजा और 30 डे ग्रुप टूरिस्ट वीजा की शुरुआत करने जा रहे हैं। मैन पावर मोबिलिटी हमारे लोगों को जोड़ने के साथ साथ दोनों देशों के लिए नई ताकत और नए अवसर क्रिएट करेगी। आज 2 समझौते किए गए हैं। हम मिलकर वोकेशनल एजुकेशन, स्किलिंग और ट्रेनिंग पर भी काम करेंगे। हम दोनों देशों के स्टूडेंट्स, स्कॉलर्स और खिलाड़ियों का आदान प्रदान भी बढ़ाएंगे।
And Prime Minister Modi also said that both sides held discussions on regional issues and on Ukraine in particular. He welcomed all efforts made to find a lasting solution to this crisis. He added that India and Russia have same stance in its fight against terrorism.
आज हमने क्षेत्रीय और वैश्विक मुद्दों पर भी चर्चा की। यूक्रेन के संबंध में भारत ने शुरुआत से शांति का पक्ष रखा है। हम इस विषय के शांतिपूर्ण और स्थायी समाधान के लिए किए जा रहे सभी प्रयासों का स्वागत करते हैं। भारत सदैव अपना योगदान देने के लिए तैयार रहा है और आगे भी रहेगा। आतंकवाद के विरुद्ध लड़ाई में भारत और रूस ने लंबे समय से कंधा मिलाकर सहयोग किया है। पहलगाम में हुआ आतंकी हमला हो या क्रोकस सिटी हॉल पर किया गया कायरतापूर्ण आघात, इन सभी घटनाओं की जड़ एक ही है। भारत का अटल विश्वास है कि आतंकवाद मानवता के मूल्यों पर सीधा प्रहार है और इसके विरुद्ध वैश्विक एकता ही हमारी सबसे बड़ी ताकत है।
And earlier, Prime Minister Modi as well as President Putin held bilateral talks at Hyderabad House. In New Delhi, the two leaders held detailed discussions aimed at further strengthening bilateral relations between the nations. Prime Minister Modi said that India and Russia share long-standing and time-tested bonds.
एक्सेलेंसी, मेरे परम मित्र, मेरे लिए खुशी की बात है कि मुझे फिर से एक बार भारत में आपका स्वागत करने का अवसर मिला है। कल से आपके डेलीगेशन के लोग अनेक मीटिंगों में व्यस्त रहे हैं और बहुत सारे आउटकम के साथ आज हमारी ये समिट आगे बढ़ रही है। एक्सेलेंसी, आपकी यात्रा बहुत ही ऐतिहासिक है। 2001 में जब आपने कार्यभार संभाला और भारत की आपकी यात्रा पहली हुई, उसको आज 25 साल हो गए और उस पहली यात्रा में ही स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप की एक मजबूत नींव रखी गई थी। मेरे लिए पर्सनली भी खुशी की बात है कि आपके साथ मेरे परिचय को और संबंधों को उसको भी 25 साल हो गए। एक्सेलेंसी, मैं मानता हूं कि ये जो 2001 में आपने जो भूमिका अदा की, एक विजनरी लीडर कैसे सोचता है, कहाँ से शुरू करता है और संबंधों को कहाँ तक पहुंचा सकता है, इसका एक उत्तम उदाहरण भारत रशिया के संबंध है। एक्सेलेंसी, यूक्रेन के संकट के बाद हमारी लगातार चर्चा होती रही है। आपने भी समय समय पर एक सच्चे मित्र के रूप में हमें सभी चीजों से अवगत कराया है। मैं समझता हूं कि ये विश्वास बहुत बड़ी ताकत है और आपको मैंने अनेक बार इस विषय की चर्चा भी की है और विश्व समक्ष भी मैंने रखा है कि विश्व का कल्याण शांति के मार्ग पर ही है। हम सबको मिलकर के शांति के रास्ते तलाशने चाहिए और पिछले दिनों जो प्रयास चल रहे हैं, मुझे पूरा विश्वास है कि विश्व फिर से एक बार शांति की दिशा में लौटेगा। एक्सेलेंसी, पिछले दिनों विश्व समुदाय के सभी नेताओं से जब भी मेरी बात हुई और उन्होंने जब विस्तार से मेरे चर्चा की, मैंने हमेशा कहा है कि भारत न्यूट्रल नहीं है, भारत का पक्ष है और वो पक्ष शांति का है। हम शांति के हर प्रयासों का समर्थन करते हैं और हम शांति के हर प्रयासों के साथ कंधे से कंधा मिला करके खड़े हैं। पूरे विश्व ने कोविड से लेकर के अब तक कई संकटों से गुजरा है। हम आशा करते हैं कि बहुत ही जल्द विश्व को चिंताओं से मुक्ति मिलेगी और एक सही दिशा में प्रगति के राह पर विश्व समुदाय को एक नई आशा पैदा होगी। एक्सेलेंसी, मुझे पूरा भरोसा है कि आज दिन भर हम अनेक विषयों पर चर्चा करने वाले हैं। भारत और रशिया के आर्थिक संबंधों का अधिक विस्तार हो, हम नई नई ऊंचाइयों को प्राप्त करें, ऐसे बहुत ही आशावादी आउटकम के साथ हम हमारी इस मीटिंग को आगे बढ़ाएंगे, ये मेरा पूरा विश्वास है। माय फ्रेंड, मैं फिर से एक बार आपका हृदय से बहुत बहुत स्वागत करता हूँ।
Excellency, Prime Minister, dear friends, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me and for just the sitting too. It was very good. Friendly and at the same time a very substantial talk. I could share a great deal of details about the events taking place in Ukraine. We are dating together with some partners, including the United States, on a possible peaceful settlement. Thank you for the attention aimed at finding a solution to this situation. Our relations are deeply rooted into history, but it is not the words that matter, it is the substance of the matter which is very profound. We really appreciate that and the fact that you, ex-Prime Minister, pay special personal attention to that. Over the past years, we have done a great deal of work to develop our relationship. As our countries and our economies move, have more opportunities for cooperation. We open additional areas for cooperation, including those related to high-tech, aircraft, space exploration, high-tech and artificial intelligence. We have very close and trusting cooperation in the military and technical area, and we are planning to move forward in all of these areas. This once again underscores the level and the trust of our relationship. Our teams have done a great work before this visit. They have prepared a great number of documents for us. We have an opportunity to talk in more detail about some of them. I'm sure that we will have a very fruitful working day.
All right, time to bring in our guests who are joining us on this leg of our special broadcast. Joining us are Mr. Ravi Joshi, Visiting Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. It's a privately held think tank headquartered in New Delhi. Also with us is Ambassador Amrit Lugun. Gentlemen, welcome to this broadcast on DD India. Good to have you join us. If I can start with you, Mr. Joshi, the business end of the summit is nearly over. Only two engagements remain, the Russia-India Business Forum and the meeting between the two presidents, President Murmu and President Putin. Looking back at the day's events as they unfolded, ending most recently with the summit itself, what did you make of the outcomes and the optics as well of the 23rd India-Russia summit? Mr. Joshi.
Yeah, thank you. This is undoubtedly, it's very high on ceremonial optics. And also the optics of a friendship that is deep-rooted and extremely important for both countries and a treasured one. This has been a relationship built over several, at least 2 decades. And as the character of our relationship itself is described as a special, privileged, strategic partnership, this is something which we don't have with any other.
So do we seem to have
No
lost?
doubt, there is no doubt that this is an extremely important relation. But now, what comes out is that this partnership is under strain and under stress.
Why do you say that?
I'll tell you why I'm saying that. Because of the new global alignments that have happened due to the Ukraine war and the pressure on both India and Russia from major world powers, particularly the United States and Europe. We have to understand our geopolitical situation, context, and also see how we balance ourselves in this geopolitical context and also retain our strategic autonomy, which we are so proud of, which we are repeatedly, flaunting, that we maintain strategic autonomy. Now, I accept that we have some amount of strategic autonomy, but we are playing a very difficult game here because we are trying to please the Western powers, particularly President Trump and also European allies. At the same time, not give up on our extremely important relationship with Russia. While Russia is also playing an equally difficult balancing game, while obviously it has increased its dependence on China, it has not given up on President Trump. President Putin is not giving up on President Trump. He constantly responds very positively and very promptly to President Trump's peace offers on Ukraine. So both countries, both President Putin and Prime Minister Modi, are playing a very difficult balancing act. So this is my opening remarks. I will elaborate more after. Thank you.
Right. Ambassador Lugun, if I could ask for your comments as well in terms of how this entire bilateral meeting, the annual summit, was built, and in terms of what it has delivered. There's an MOU on mobility. There's, of course, an economic path that has been charted for 2030 as well. So a lot to chew on there, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, this visit is happening, exactly after the year when our Prime Minister had gone to Russia last year, and the joint statement mentioned about India-Russia relations, enhancing and enduring relationship. So it is under this context it has been held, and this year itself, in spite of, as Mr. Joshi said, in the very difficult circumstances, but we have to see the results on the ground. The two leaders have been meeting quite regularly, even on the sidelines. The last one was on the sidelines of the SCO summit, which was held in Tianjin, China, where even both the leaders were shown, traveling together in car, and then in the other summits, BRICS summits, etc. Our foreign ministers, both the foreign ministers have met at least 6 times, including the high-level intergovernmental committee for developing economic and political relationship, where this economic target of having bilateral trade of $100 billion has been targeted. Right now, the trade is around $68 billion, so it is achievable. But of course, it is heavily tilted in Russia's favor because of its huge energy exports, oil and gas, coking coal, and sunflower oil, which are very much in demand in India. So there is a lot of scope from India exporting to Russia. And also it leaves a lot of scope for Russian investment into India. The target is, of course, to reach $25 billion of investments. Of course, the sticking point has been the rupee-ruble trade arrangement, and the past, the the past payments due to Russia, when we had this before in the USSR time. So these are the sticking points. But Russia is still very much involved in our defense relationship. For example, again this year we had Indra exercises 2025, both at land and sea. The latest one of the army was held in Bikaner, where 250 armed personnel from both sides participated. Then in end March and early April, we had the naval side of the Indra exercise, where the harbor part was held in Chennai and the sea part was in Bay of Bengal. So, and then last month itself, the two ministers dealing with maritime and shipping, Indian was the Minister of Shipping, Mr. Sonowal, and his Russian counterpart met in India, where efforts are being made to, and discussions were held to develop and diversify relationship in the maritime area, both in the research side, in the civilian side, and of course in the connectivity side. Chennai, Vladivostok, that sea route is still quite active. So what I'm in nutshell trying to say is that the relationship between the two countries, in spite of the challenges, on the ground, it appears to be moving, and how it is sustained, and in case the peace in Ukraine, as per the US 28-point peace agreement program they had proposed to President Putin, and European Union stoned it down to 19. So that is actively going on. So President Putin is responding to it, and our Prime Minister has definitely said that they want to see peace. His aim is to see that peace comes up as soon as possible, and India is a big supporter of it. So it's a very crucial time of this meeting being held.
Indeed, Ambassador, since you refer to trade, and clearly trade was a prime focus of the discussions between the two principals, and because we are expecting the Russia-India Business Forum to begin anytime now in New Delhi as well, let's focus, delve a bit more on trade and investment aspect of the relationship. Now, there are certain impediments in the way, not least of all the sanctions, the Western sanctions on Russian entities in the energy sector, number one, and number two, the US tariffs on India. Now, how can Russia and India establish or put in place practical mechanisms to circumvent or obviate or overcome this hurdle, as it were? Because PM himself has said, and I'm quoting him here, he spoke about a diversified, balanced and sustainable trade. So in that context, what can both sides do, or have they already agreed upon mechanisms to, instance, boost Indian exports to Russia, to facilitate trade and commerce, and also to incentivize Indian exporters to venture into the Russian market?
Can I take that?
Ambassador Lugun, yeah. Ambassador Lugun first, please.
Yeah.
Ambassador, could you unmute?
Could you unmute yourself, Ambassador?
Carry on, please.
It's already unmute.
Yeah, carry on. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So what I was saying that this the challenge is of course there. It has been added by the sanction, and as I told you that old payments under the Russia ruble trade arrangement is still not been fully worked out. As Russia has a big surplus in our trade relationship, and even when we were importing oil, under the arrangement of outside of dollars, and even payments in UAE dirham, and then Russia, after some time, there were a lot of ifs and buts, because it is trade is heavily tilted in Russia's favor, so they don't want to accumulate a lot of rupee, which is not unfortunately doing well in the international market. So the big challenge is there, but once the Ukraine peace agreement comes into being, and which everyone is hopeful, because with the, we must remember that, when the Russians started their operation in Ukraine, it was to finish in 2 weeks, or no, that definitely nobody expected, least of all the Russian side, that it will prolong to such an extent, more than 3 years. So all the sides are very tired. It has having effect in the global affairs. So, so that is and this seems to be moving now. So that is a one way. The other is, like during the Cold War time, we had a special arrangement between India and Russia, and that so that mechanism, something if does as a plan B, will need to be worked out, between the two sides. And I am sure in the business meetings which are going to be followed, these questions will definitely be addressed. Yes.
Right. Ravi Joshi, if I could ask you as well on this very point, in the sense that there is now a document which has been agreed upon for economic progress to be taken forward, an economic roadmap till 2030. And of course, the thrust, as India has underlined, has to be on Russia taking more of India's exports. Now, how is that goal to be pursued? Because governments can only facilitate. It is for the industries, for the exporters themselves to get down to it and then get the job done.
Yeah, let me add some granularity to the discussion. We all know that the rupee-ruble trade is going on with Russia and India for a long. And in fact, this rupee-ruble trade is causing such a serious imbalance to Russia, because we are importing so much of oil, energy supplies. Nearly 40% of our energy basket is taken by Russian oil supply, mainly because of which discounted oil. So from less than $10 billion before around 2021, 22, our trade balance has gone up to $69 billion, much of it in favor of Russia. So our exports to Russia is only about $5 billion, and our imports from Russia is about $64 billion. Now, how do we address this imbalance? Now, let me ask you one question. When we say rupee-ruble trade balance, how are we going to measure what is the equivalence that we are creating between rupee and ruble? Now, ruble sees what is the equivalence between rupee and dollar, and accordingly it fixes its rate. Now, if rupee is falling from $85 to a dollar 3 months ago to 90 to a dollar today, now ruble will have a great difficulty in adjusting its payment mechanism. Mm-hmm. So there is enormous amount of rupees lying in Russia's account. Now, Russia can spend this in India itself. It can't spend it anywhere else. Can't buy stuff from Malaysia or Indonesia by paying in rupees. So obviously, what do? They open something like a RT channel in India. So now RT channel will use all the rupees that it can use, but it's only a very limited amount. So now India has to export far more than what it is doing now. But is there demand in Russia for Indian goods? What are the things that Russia wants? We are only exporting so far agro products, pharma products, and some industrial engineering goods, etc. But now, actually, we are now come up with a human resource export. That's the new MOU we have signed, the labor mobility MOU. Okay, now let me go into this in greater detail. Whenever I have gone to Moscow and St. Petersburg, I was impressed by the number of Indians who are studying medicine there. So many Indians doing, their medical courses, coming out as doctors and surgeons. But I have not seen many unskilled laborers in the Russian streets. There are no Indian unskilled laborers or semi-skilled laborers in the Russian street. Why? Because Russia itself has a huge pool of such unskilled or semi-skilled labor force, and it is not able to absorb them because its employment rate is very low. So when the Russian economy is not able to absorb its own semi-skilled and unskilled workers, it cannot take many from India. So it's a good attempt we are making, but it has got problems. And one more thing I saw when I was in Moscow once, I saw a serious anti-immigration protest march. led by a very strong, rabid youth. And when I asked my embassy officials, they said, yes, this is becoming increasingly common. So there are serious anti-immigration protest marches coming up in Russia. And this was almost 10 years ago, I'd say. So now it must be getting worse. So now we have to see how we can adjust what kind of labor can go to Russia. It has to be highly skilled. Will our IT workers go to Russia? Will they have jobs in Russia? Will our IT sector do investment in Russia? Will Infosys or Azim Premji, will they go and invest in Russia? How will they, and will they take Indian IT engineers to Russia? So these are the granular questions that one has to ask. And there lies a lot of difficulty. So this is the problem that the India Business Forum has tackled. And let's see, and let's hope that we come to a solution. But these are very serious challenges.
Indeed.
So this is what I want. Yeah.
Indeed. Mr. Joshi, a related issue is that in which both principals flagged in their joint press statements as well. They spoke about the likelihood of an early harvest on the Eurasian Economic Union FTA between India and the Central Asian countries and Russia as well. In that context, while we are still waiting for the contours, the text of the joint statement per se, do you anticipate spin-offs going forward from this summit in terms of India's engagements with third countries or regions, namely Central Asia, for instance, Iran, Afghanistan, or even the Arctic, for instance? So do you see spin-offs for India going forward in some of these countries or regions?
This EFTA is a very ambitious project. Okay, so far it has failed to take off. Now EFTA, it's not like as productive as ASEAN is.
Okay.
ASEAN is an extremely productive business ecosystem. EFTA has got countries like Central Asia. Central Asian countries are all very slow in economic growth, and Iran is another extremely sanctioned economy. Actually talking about Iran, I must tell you how we tackled the payments issue. That's a very important point. You raised the question of how we are going to tackle the payments issue to a country which is under sanction. I will explain to you my personal experience.
Sure.
I took part in the negotiation when Iran was under heavy sanctions by the US, and we were importing a substantial amount of oil from Iran, almost like $12 billion worth of oil at one point of time. And we gradually reduced it. And at that time, it was Hillary Clinton who was Secretary of State, and she had given us a 6-month time to slowly bring it down to zero level. Mm-hmm. Okay, and at that time, for nearly 2 years, I was part of the negotiating team, and we first started paying Iran in euros. Okay, through a Hulk bank a Turkish bank in Germany.
Right.
The Americans found out that, and Americans put pressure on Hulk bank to stop the payment.
Right.
Okay. Then we told the Iranians, okay, we can open an account in Dubai, or we can open an account in Turkey, or something like that. They said, okay, we'll try the mechanism of opening accounts in Dubai. But whenever we opened an account, the Americans would seize that account. Okay, they would stop the payment. Then we came up with a solution that 1/3 of the payment we will do in euros, 1/3 of the payments we will do in rupees. We opened a rupee Iranian Riyal account in the Union Bank of India in Bombay, and 1/3 payment we will do to a third country from which Iran is importing goods, like Malaysia or Indonesia. So we will pay that country in dollars. So this kind of mechanism we came up with, and this was quite successful for quite some time. And but finally we brought down our oil import from Iran to zero. So that is what happened under American pressure. And are we going to do that with Russia? This is a question.
All right. We'll have to wait and see if that is possible. Also, another thing that Russia could look at for spending the amount of rupees that it has right now, the accumulation, is to go in for more Indian services, because even the one is, of course, trade in goods, the other is services, and the services component of overall trade is also quite low. Now, let me just also put out for our viewers what the Russian president had to say as far as the joint press briefing was concerned. Well, Vladimir Putin underscored the key priorities for strengthening India-Russia ties, spanning security, economy, trade and more, setting the stage for broader bilateral cooperation.
In the joint statement that we've adopted with Mr. Modi, we've delineated the priority objectives on the further reinforcements of our ties in the politics and security, economy, trade, in humanitarian and cultural spheres. As you saw yourself, we have signed an impressive package of intergovernmental, interagency and corporate agreements. Many of those agreements are intended to broaden the economic cooperation between Russia and India. And this is entirely natural due to the fact that our countries are important partners of one another in trade, investment and technologies.
And for his part, President Putin also reiterated that Russia remains a reliable supplier of oil and gas as well as coal, adding that Moscow is ready to continue uninterrupted fuel supplies to India.
We are also seeing successful partnership in energy. Russia is a reliable supplier of oil, gas, coal and everything that is required for the development of India's energy. We are ready to continue uninterrupted shipments of fuel for the fast-growing Indian economy.
Furthermore, in an earlier interview with an Indian television network, the Russian president was all praise for the leadership qualities and statesmanship of Prime Minister Modi. Putin said that Prime Minister Modi is not someone who succumbs to pressure easily. The Indian people can certainly take pride in their leader. He added that his stance is unwavering and straightforward without being confrontational. The Russian president also complimented Prime Minister Modi's leadership. He said our collaborative endeavours with Prime Minister Modi carry significant weight because they transcend our mutual ties. Putin further said that ensuring stability in key areas of engagement is crucial as it helps secure fulfillment of objectives. The Russian president added that Prime Minister Modi sets very challenging tasks for the country and for himself in the first place, then for the administration and eventually for the nation. India stands out as one of Russia's reliable and privileged partners in this area. He also said that we are not merely selling something to India and India isn't merely buying something from us in the sphere of defense and security. He also said that both Russia and India value bilateral ties. It's a different level, a different quality of relations we have with India, that's what he said, and we value this. He also said that we see how India values this relationship too. Further, he said Russia is not simply selling defense technology to India, but it is sharing it with the country. He said it's a very rare thing to see in the sphere of military technical cooperation. It speaks to the level of trust between the two nations.
Now, day 2 of Russian President Vladimir Putin's visit to India began with a ceremonial welcome at the forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan in New Delhi. The Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, and the Russian leader received, President Draupadi Murmu received the visiting leader ahead of bilateral talks and the 23rd India-Russia annual summit scheduled later.
And the Russian president also laid a wreath at Rajghat in Delhi and paid homage to Father of the Nation Mahatma Gandhi during his state visit, marking a key ceremonial engagement ahead of the bilateral talks.
Right, we still have with us our guests, Mr. Ravi Joshi and Ambassador Lugun with us for sharing their perspectives on the just concluded India-Russia summit. Ambassador Lugun, if I can come to you, we've discussed about bilateral dimensions of the relationship. Let's zoom out and talk about regional and global issues, including but not limited to the Ukraine-Russia conflict. We heard both leaders speak about or share their perspectives on the issue. For his part, President Putin spoke about and he thanked Prime Minister Modi for paying special attention to this issue, the Ukraine-Russia conflict. And PM Modi, for his part, saying that India has never been neutral. India is on the side of peace and that he hopes that the situation can be resolved to mutual satisfaction going forward. Now, from an Indian perspective, what's at stake here for India, and do you see India playing a role in any way whatsoever going forward?
Yeah, I mean, in the last 20 years or 30 years, our relationship with the USA and European Union have also progressed into Russia. We have always reiterated that it is Russia relation, and is it talking of taking the ship forward in some form or the other. In the last visit, Prime Minister, he was awarded highest of in Moscow. What India has done, they have as a now emerging big power, they can definitely play a very balancing role and in enhancing this prospect of peace, and we hope it will happen soon. And even President Putin acknowledged that role, that we, unlike other, say, big powers, like China, which look suspect in the eyes of big powers. India is more like a benign power which has a lot of influence, not only in the region, but also among the third world countries. And that is why also when this Pahalgam attack had happened earlier in May this year, so President Putin had made a telephone call to our Prime Minister. Our special delegation of members of parliament had gone to Russia also. So from the regional point of view, the both sides are likely to discuss, and they can have big roles to play. And Central Asia, of course, Professor was mentioning, India has had historical ties with them since so many years. A lot of monuments are there, like cities like Samarkand, Bukhara, Andijan Valley. And then in India also. So the Central Asians have also a lot of emotional ties with India, in addition to the other areas of economic politics. So from the regional point of view, this exchange will help not only to develop bilateral relationship, but also how both the sides can play effective role together in the region itself. This thing, and of course, both sides have also been very active and in organizations like BRICS, which both have been founder members. Then Shanghai Cooperation Agreement Organization, Shanghai Cooperation. So these. Then SICA, we don't talk about SICA, but both India and Russia have been members of that. So, so there are a lot of institutional mechanisms are there where both sides have opportunities to take these relationship at a multilateral and regional level also through these high-level bilateral visits.
Yes, certainly. And Ravi Joshi, if I could ask you in terms of how the progress could be made, a lot has to really emerge from this business forum meeting, where India and Russia can talk beyond governments, industry to industry, and businesses to businesses as well. Do you feel that there is a need, really a sense of urgency, to ensure that this sort of a conversation takes place and ends up with something fruitful that can be taken forward?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no denying of the fact that the Indian industry has to explore opportunities in the Russian market, either in terms of investment or in terms of setting up joint ventures, and how to, we're only looking at export opportunities. Like, what are the goods that we can sell to Russia? What are the goods that are in demand? So far, there was a time when we were exporting huge amounts of tea, and then it became fertilizers. Then we went on to pharma. Pharma is one extremely incentivized industry, which is getting a lot of profit and which is getting a lot of market in Russia. So pharmaceutical sector can still grow. But besides that, where are the opportunities? And does Russia look at goods from India, or does it prefer China, or does it prefer Europe? So you have to see the Russian consumer is a very discerning consumer. Russia is already a highly developed economy, and I've seen the growth of Russia from the time it went out of Soviet Union, and suddenly I saw, in fact, the first time this McDonald's was opened, I was there in Moscow, and from that time onwards, today Russia is a huge different ecosystem. It's a very advanced economy, and the Russian consumers are very discerning consumers. And will they take goods from India? And if so, what are the goods? Probably IT sector has a very good place to enter. Now, IT sector has to come in and has to partner with Russian IT. Russia is already very well advanced in the sector of AI and robotics and such areas. So our frontiers of our IT sectors have to link up the frontiers of Russia IT sector. Now, the IT sector creates only one kind of job, and those jobs are very limited. Now, but if you are looking at manpower mobility, that is not going to be in the IT sector. That is, are you going to send teachers, doctors? Are you going to send engineers? What kind of professionals are going to go and are willing to learn Russian and work in that area and contribute to their economy? So these are very difficult questions, but I'm sure this will be tackled. We have to look at these opportunities because we have to reduce the trade imbalance, and it's until the sanctions regime is over, we'll have these problems. I'm sure the sanctions will be lifted in a year or two, because Trump is extremely keen on lifting the sanctions. If you saw the last meeting, it was Steve Witkoff was the regular trade negotiator on behalf of Trump. But there was one more character there, who was Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of Trump. So here I see a business deal coming up in Russia. If the American business corporations are looking to open the Russian sector, then Trump will be under pressure by his own companies to lift the sanctions. That's why he's under pressure. He's pressurizing Zelensky to accept his peace deal. Though it goes against the grain of Zelensky's thinking that he has to sacrifice territory and he has to accept whatever security guarantees that Russia and Europe gives him. So he's actually pushed a corner. He has no option. So sooner or later, I'm sure Trump and Putin will close a peace deal, and the sanctions regime will be lifted. Then it will be a very different policy. That's our hope.
Absolutely. Ambassador Lugun, the Prime Minister in his press statement, along with President Putin, spoke about some other issues as well, multilateral issues in particular. He spoke about India-Russia cooperation or convergence in the UN, for instance, and the G20. In the multilateral context, what can we expect from India under its presidency of the BRICS starting 1st January next year, number one? And number two, President Putin, for his part, specifically spoke about Russia's view or need or demand for a more just, democratic and multipolar world order. What exactly did he mean by that?
Yeah, the sanctions regime has exposed the multilateral structure, especially in the economic area, built after the Second World War. The Bretton Woods institutions, World Bank, IMF, how they have exploited. But in the last 20 years, 15 years especially, the institutions like BRICS they have come up with, and the questions have been posed, especially by leaders like President Putin and even President Lula of Brazil, and of course China being a silent backer of that, to find an alternative to the dollar as the world reserve currency. And as long as these institutions are there without any change, so they are like a threat to the developing world, who are especially in Africa and some parts of Asia, where the debt level has gone up tremendously, and many countries, are in a situation where they cannot repay their debts, and these debts are mostly in dollars and to lesser extent in euro. So this is one way, and we should remember that when India hosted the G20 summit, they got in African Union as a member, and before that they had a lot of dialogue with the interest of the third world countries, which are a large number in the UN system. So both are looking towards the reforms there. But the main challenging part will be Russia is a member of one exclusive club we call the UNSC, a permanent member. And India and some of the like-minded countries like Germany, Japan, Brazil have been talking about reforms there, in the UNSC. So how Russia will move there, because these 5 permanent members so far have not been seen welcoming. They talk about expansion of the UN Security Council in the permanent member side, or to reform it, but when it comes to actions, some excuse or something is being found. So both are looking for, definitely both very much agree that the current architecture, especially in the economic side and also in the political side, are not reflective of the current reality of the world, which has changed dramatically after the end of the Second World War, because most of the institutions in place are as a result of that, with some modifications here and there. So, so definitely, and Russia being a permanent member of UNSC has a great responsibility in taking this reform agenda forward, both in the economic side and also in the political side of the India.
Yes, and Ravi Joshi, if you look at what Prime Minister Modi said, he also talked about supply chains and rare earths or critical minerals as well. And there is tremendous scope there to a largely unexplored area where India and Russia is concerned. So do you feel that that is another area where perhaps coupled with the private industries on both sides, a lot more could be done, particularly in the kind of environment that we are in, where China has a bit of a monopoly on rare earths?
Yes, this point was particularly raised by Prime Minister Modi in the G20 summit, which happened in South Africa recently. There, Prime Minister Modi talked about creating a global repository of rare earth minerals circularity. Okay, that's a very important contribution he made, and this was accepted by the G20. So now what he is trying to talk about is that there should be no monopoly of rare earth by a few countries, but the global south, but he meant basically the global south should be able to have access to rare earth minerals. Now, what is happening so far is whoever has the stick, he owns the animal, so whoever has the dollars, he pays for the rare earth and gets it. So whether it is in Ukraine, whether it is in Chile, whether it is any part of the world, first countries to go and grab these rare earths are US and China. So because of the enormous amount of foreign exchange reserves there, and that is where the global south countries are at a great disadvantage. Now, India is also a country with some amount of rare earth, is now discovering more and more rare earth reserves in its own territory. But now we are trying to say that there should be no concentration of rare earth minerals only with a few countries in the world. Because this leads to an imbalance in technology. In the digital divide will get much worse. The digital, whether it is solar power, whether it is electronic cars, whether it is iPhones or smartphone, they all need these rare earth materials. And only those countries which have the access to rare earth will be producing this technology at at tremendous scale. And the other countries will be left poor and destitute in a new kind of way, where there will be inequality of in the digital world, in the upcoming solar world, or in upcoming electronic vehicle world. So these are the new inequalities that are going to emerge. So we have to take action and get many more countries involved in, especially the countries that have rare earth mineral resources. They should be made partners in this game. And then only there's some possibility of some equitable share in the rare earth mineral wealth of the world.
Indeed, while we are waiting for the India-Russia Business Forum to begin here in New Delhi, let's also talk a bit about the future.
Pleased to welcome participants of the plenary session of the Russian-Indian Business Forum. These days, New Delhi has brought together representatives of economic ministries and authorities, as well as heads of major companies and banks, heads of regions, parliamentarians from both our countries. In a word, all those who are really involved into practical efforts to develop the multifaceted Russian-Indian cooperation in the field of imports and exports, finances and investment. I assume that at the numerous panel sessions and expert discussions, you addressed a wide range of specific issues of economic cooperation between Russia and India. But most importantly, the forum saw the establishment of new business contacts, launch of negotiations on future commercial deals, and the start of promising mutually beneficial projects. Let me stress, most importantly, when we conceived and proposed this forum, it was initially intended to show what multifaceted opportunities our cooperation can offer, and to make it clear the Russian delegation did not only come in order to discuss energy issues and sign contracts for the supplies of oil and gas. What we want is development of our multifaceted relations with India on various fields. His Excellency Prime Minister stressed on many occasions in our private talks that India has vast and growing opportunities in many fields, but up until now they haven't been used to the extent both parties want to see it. That is exactly the reason why we convened this forum. And speaking frankly, first and foremost, it focuses on the opportunities of the Indian economy, and we want to familiarize our economic operators with these opportunities so that both parties can satisfy the needs of each other. It is essential, since those are solid and multifaceted ties between Russian and Indian businesses that are one of the main pillars of special and privileged strategic partnership of our countries. Indeed, Russia and India are long-time trade partners. Trade volumes are growing at a sustainable pace, and over the past 3 years we saw a record increase of up to 80%. As a result, last year the Russian-Indian trade volume reached $64 billion. At the same time, it's obvious that there are vast opportunities for further increase of bilateral trade and investment. Russia and India have big consumer markets and an impressive economic, technological and resource potential. Once again, I would like to stress that under the leadership of His Excellency Modi, India is conducting an absolutely independent and sovereign policy, and at the same time achieves very good results in the economic field. Today, the Indian economy is one of the fastest growing in the world. figures speak for themselves. Over a decade, the GDP of the country has almost doubled, and in terms of the purchasing power parity, it increased by 2.5 times. Thanks to the sound economic policy and such landmark initiatives by Prime Minister Modi as Make in India program, India is strengthening its technological sovereignty. The Indian processing and light industry, IT sector, and pharmaceuticals take leading positions in the world. In Russia, we study the Indian experience with interest, and it is used in implementation of our national programs of import substitution and localization of products with high value added. The leadership of two countries, and Prime Minister Modi and I in person, pay particular attention to deepening multifaceted economic ties between Russia and India. Following today's negotiations, we adopted the program for the development of Russian and Indian economic cooperation. This comprehensive document aims at making sure that we can achieve the goal Mr. Modi and I set for ourselves, so that we can increase the trade volume by 2030 to $100 billion. It requires most active efforts of business communities from both countries, aimed at further expanding and diversification of trade volumes and building balanced structure of reciprocal trade. Given the significant trade profits of Russia, the Russian business, our companies, are ready to manifold increase the purchase from India of a widest range of goods and services. We are interested in it, dear friends, because it makes our economy more resilient. From their part, Indian entrepreneurs, as was demonstrated by the forum, are equally interested in trading with Russia. They have something to offer, so the synergy is obvious. So it would only be logical that projects contributing to greater supplies of Indian products to Russia receive priority attention in implementation of the new export support program recently adopted by the government of Mr. Modi. From my part, I would like to assure the business circles that all useful initiatives aimed at development of mutual economic exchanges will be further supported by Russian ministries and authorities. No doubt, the key role in creating conditions for a truly free trade between our countries is played by the Intergovernmental Commission. It is important that together in close cooperation we eliminate the Romanian customs and administrative barriers which stay in the way of reciprocal movement of goods, services and capitals. In this regard, a strong impetus, as it seems, could be given by rapid signature of a preferential trade agreement between India and the Eurasian Economic Union. Free trade is unthinkable without a resilient system of bilateral settlements and reliable payment and insurance mechanisms. Tangible advantages are offered by the use of national currencies. It makes it possible to ensure uninterrupted financial transactions regardless of external developments. And obviously, accessibility of transport and logistics communications plays a crucial role. A lot is already being done in this regard. Implementation of the project to create the corridor south-north from Russia and Belarus to the Indian Ocean is ongoing, and infrastructure modernization of the Northern Sea route is being modernized in order to use it for the supplies of Indian goods to the world markets. Obviously, the cooperation of our two countries should not be limited to trade alone. We should move on and enhance our industrial cooperation. Together, we should create new cutting-edge products and strengthen technological alliances, first and foremost in such advanced and knowledge-intensive sectors as digitalization, autonomous robotics, pharmaceuticals, including synthesis of efficient pharmaceuticals and production of high-tech medicine equipment. We are ready for broad cooperation with India in the field of artificial intelligence, where our countries have already advanced a lot. Russia is interested in participating in the As I've just mentioned it to Prime Minister, we are ready to participate in the Summit on Artificial Intelligence, scheduled to take place in India in February 2026. We will send a representative delegation. In conclusion, I would like to stress once again further strengthening of Russian-Indian trade and investment ties and close cooperation between business communities effectively contributes to economic growth and development and greater well-being of our citizens, and therefore it meets the fundamental interests of our countries and peoples. I would like to wish to the participants and organizers of the forum all the best. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Excellency, for sharing your vision on the immense potential of bilateral trade. Excellencies, now I respectfully invite Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, to deliver his concluding remarks.
Your Excellency, my friend राष्ट्रपति पुतिन, भारत और रूस बिजनेस के सभी लीडर्स, देवी और सज्जनों, नमस्कार। इंडिया रशिया बिजनेस फोरम, मैं समझता हूँ कि राष्ट्रपति पुतिन का ये बड़ा महत्वपूर्ण इनिशिएटिव रहा कि इतना बड़ा डेलीगेशन लेकर के आज इस कार्यक्रम का हिस्सा बने हैं और आप सबका मैं हृदय से बहुत बहुत स्वागत करता हूँ और मेरा भी आप सबके बीच आना एक बहुत प्रसन्नता का अवसर है। इस फोरम से जुड़ने के लिए और अपने बहुमूल्य विचार साझा करने के लिए मैं मेरे मित्र राष्ट्रपति पुतिन का हृदय से बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूँ। बिजनेस के लिए सिंप्लीफाइड, प्रिडिक्टेबल मैकेनिज्म बनाए जा रहे हैं। भारत और यूरेशियन इकोनॉमिक यूनियन के बीच एफटीए पर चर्चा शुरू हो गई है और साथियों, हम अलग अलग विषयों को लेकर के भी, जैसा अभी पीयूष जी ने उल्लेख किया था और जैसा राष्ट्रपति जी ने जो संभावनाओं का वर्णन किया है, उसे देखते हुए हम बहुत कम समय में बहुत बड़े लक्ष्य हासिल कर सकते हैं। बिजनेस हो या डिप्लोमेसी, किसी भी साझेदारी की नींव आपसी विश्वास है। भारत रूस संबंधों की सबसे बड़ी शक्ति यही विश्वास है। यह हमारे साझे प्रयासों को दिशा भी देता है और गति भी देता है। यही वह लॉन्च पैड है जो हमें नए सपनों, नई आकांक्षाओं की उड़ान भरने के लिए प्रेरित करता है। पिछले वर्ष राष्ट्रपति पुतिन और मैंने 2030 तक द्विपक्षीय व्यापार को $100 बिलियन का उस लक्ष्य को पार करने का हमने निर्धार किया था। लेकिन कल से मेरी जो राष्ट्रपति पुतिन से बात हो रही है और जिस प्रकार के पोटेंशियल नजर आ रहे हैं, मुझे नहीं लगता कि हमें 2030 तक इंतजार करना पड़ेगा। ये मैं साफ देख रहा हूं। हम उस लक्ष्य को समय से पहला पूरा करने के संकल्प के साथ आगे बढ़ रहे हैं और मेरा विश्वास बढ़ रहा है। टैरिफ और नॉन टैरिफ बैरियर्स को कम किया जा रहा है, लेकिन साथियों, इन प्रयासों की असली शक्ति आप जैसे बिजनेस लीडर्स हैं। आपकी ऊर्जा, आपका इनोवेशन और आपका एम्बिशन, यही हमारे संयुक्त भविष्य को आकार देते हैं। फ्रेंड, पिछले 11 वर्षों में भारत में जिस स्पीड और स्केल के साथ हमने बदलाव किए हैं, वह अभूतपूर्व हैं। रिफॉर्म, परफॉर्म एंड ट्रांसफॉर्म,
इस सिद्धांत पर चलते हुए भारत तेजी से विश्व की तीसरी सबसे बड़ी इकोनॉमी बनने की और आगे बढ़ रहा है। और 11 वर्षों की इस रिफॉर्म यात्रा में हम न थके हैं, हम न रुके हैं। हमारे संकल्प पहले से ज्यादा मजबूत हैं और हम लक्ष्य की दिशा में बड़े आत्मविश्वास के साथ बहुत तेज गति से आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। जीएसटी में नेक्स्ट जनरेशन रिफॉर्म और कंप्लायंसेस में कटौती ऐसे कदम उठाए गए हैं ताकि ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस को बढ़ावा मिले। डिफेंस और स्पेस को प्राइवेट सेक्टर के लिए खोल दिया गया है। इससे इन सेक्टर्स में नए अवसर बने हैं। अब हम सिविल न्यूक्लियर सेक्टर में भी नई संभावनाओं के द्वार खोलने जा रहे हैं। यह केवल एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव रिफॉर्म नहीं, बल्कि माइंडसेट रिफॉर्म्स हैं। इन रिफॉर्म्स के पीछे एक ही संकल्प है, विकसित भारत। फ्रेंड्स, कल और आज आपके बीच बहुत ही उपयोगी और सार्थक चर्चाएं हुई हैं। मुझे खुशी है कि भारत और रूस के सहयोग के सभी क्षेत्रों का इस बैठक में प्रतिनिधित्व किया गया है। आप सभी के सुझावों और प्रयासों के लिए मैं आपका हार्दिक अभिनंदन करता हूं। मेरी ओर से हमारे सहयोग को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए कुछ विचार आपके सामने मैं रखता हूं। पहला, लॉजिस्टिक्स और कनेक्टिविटी के क्षेत्र में आज की बैठक में राष्ट्रपति पुतिन और मैंने हमारे कनेक्टिविटी के पूरे पोटेंशियल को रियलाइज करने पर बल दिया है। आईएनएसटीसी या तो फिर नॉर्दर्न सी रूट यानी चेन्नई व्लादिवोस्टोक कॉरिडोर, इन पर हम आगे बढ़ने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध हैं। जल्द ही इस दिशा में प्रगति होगी। इससे ट्रांजिट टाइम घटेगा, कॉस्ट कम होगी और बिजनेस के लिए नए मार्केट्स खुलेंगे। डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी की ताकत के साथ हम कस्टम्स, लॉजिस्टिक्स और रेगुलेटरी सिस्टम को वर्चुअल ट्रेड कॉरिडोर से जोड़ सकते हैं। इससे कस्टम्स क्लियरेंस तेज होगा, पेपर वर्क घटेगा और कार्गो मूवमेंट अधिक सीमलेस बनेगा। दूसरा, मरीन प्रोडक्ट्स। हाल ही में रूस द्वारा भारत से डेयरी और मरीन प्रोडक्ट्स के निर्यात के लिए भारतीय कंपनियों की लिस्ट में विस्तार किया गया है। इससे भारत के एक्सपोर्टर्स के लिए नए अवसर बने हैं। भारत के हाई क्वालिटी मरीन प्रोडक्ट्स, वैल्यू एडेड सी फूड, प्रोसेस्ड फूड, इसकी बड़ी मात्रा में ग्लोबल डिमांड है। हम कोल्ड चेन लॉजिस्टिक्स, डीप सी फिशिंग और फिशिंग हार्बर्स के मॉडर्नाइजेशन में ज्वाइंट वेंचर और टेक्नोलॉजी पार्टनरशिप बना सकते हैं। इससे रूस की डोमेस्टिक डिमांड भी पूरी होगी और भारतीय उत्पादों को नए मार्केट भी मिलेंगे। तीसरा, ऑटोमोबाइल सेक्टर। भारत अफोर्डेबल, एफिशिएंट ईवीज, टू व्हीलर्स और सीएनजी मोबिलिटी सॉल्यूशंस में आज ग्लोबल लीडर है। रूस एडवांस मटेरियल का बड़ा प्रोड्यूसर है। हम मिलकर ईवी मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, ऑटोमोटिव कंपोनेंट्स और शेयर्ड मोबिलिटी टेक, इसमें साझेदारी कर सकते हैं। इससे हम न केवल अपनी जरूरतों को पूरा कर सकेंगे, बल्कि ग्लोबल साउथ, विशेषकर अफ्रीका के विकास में भी योगदान दे सकते हैं। चौथा, फार्मा। भारत आज विश्व भर में किफायती मूल्यों पर उच्चतम क्वालिटी की दवाइयां सप्लाई कर रहा है। इसलिए भारत को फार्मेसी ऑफ द वर्ल्ड भी कहा जाता है। हम दोनों मिलकर जॉइंट वैक्सीन डेवलपमेंट, कैंसर थेरेपीज, रेडियो फार्मास्यूटिकल्स और एपीआई सप्लाई चेन में सहयोग कर सकते हैं। इससे हेल्थ केयर सिक्योरिटी भी बढ़ेगी और नई इंडस्ट्रीज भी विकसित होगी। पांचवा, टेक्सटाइल। भारत के पास नेचुरल फाइबर से लेकर टेक्निकल टेक्सटाइल तक विशाल क्षमता है। डिजाइन, हैंडीक्राफ्ट्स और कारपेट्स में हमारी वैश्विक पहचान है। रूस पॉलीमर और सिंथेटिक रॉ मटेरियल्स का बड़ा प्रोड्यूसर है। हम साथ मिलकर रेजिलिएंट टेक्सटाइल वैल्यू चेन बना सकते हैं। इसी तरह फर्टिलाइजर, सिरेमिक्स, सीमेंट मैन्युफैक्चरिंग और इलेक्ट्रॉनिक जैसे क्षेत्रों में भी सहयोग की कई संभावनाएं हैं। साथियों, सभी क्षेत्रों में सहयोग बढ़ाने में मैन पावर मोबिलिटी की महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका है। भारत आज दुनिया की स्किल कैपिटल के रूप में उभर रहा है। हमारा युवा टैलेंट टेक्नोलॉजी, इंजीनियरिंग, हेल्थ केयर, कंस्ट्रक्शन, लॉजिस्टिक्स, हर क्षेत्र में ग्लोबल रिक्वायरमेंट्स को पूरा करने की क्षमता रखता है। रूस की डेमोग्राफिक और इकोनॉमिक प्रायोरिटीज को देखते हुए यह साझेदारी दोनों देशों के लिए अत्यंत उपयोगी है। जब हम भारत के टैलेंट को रूसी भाषा और सॉफ्ट स्किल में ट्रेनिंग देंगे तो हम मिलकर एक ऐसी रशिया रेडी वर्कफोर्स तैयार कर सकते हैं जो दोनों देशों की शेयर्ड प्रॉस्पेरिटी को गति देगी। फ्रेंड्स, आज हम अपने दोनों देशों के नागरिकों के लिए टूरिस्ट वीजा पर कई अहम हमने फैसले लिए हैं। इससे दोनों देशों के बीच टूरिज्म को बढ़ावा मिलेगा, टूर ऑपरेटर्स के लिए नए बिजनेस अपॉर्चुनिटीज बनेगी और रोजगार के नए अवसर खुलेंगे। फ्रेंड्स, आज भारत और रूस को इनोवेशन, को प्रोडक्शन और को क्रिएशन की नई यात्रा पर साथ चल रहे हैं। हमारा लक्ष्य आपसी व्यापार बढ़ाने तक सीमित नहीं है। हम पूरी मानवता की भलाई सुनिश्चित करना चाहते हैं। इसके लिए ग्लोबल चैलेंज का स्थायी समाधान तैयार करना है। भारत इस यात्रा में रूस के साथ कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर चलने के लिए पूरी तरह से तैयार है। मैं आप सबसे कहना चाहता हूं, कम मेक इन इंडिया, पार्टनर विथ इंडिया एंड टुगेदर लेट अस मेक फॉर द वर्ल्ड। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैं राष्ट्रपति पुतिन और आप सभी का आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister, sir, for your vision.
So you there heard both the leaders in the national capital of India talking about how businesses can be expanded in the presence of business leaders from both the sides. A large delegation that President Putin brought over from Moscow for his state visit here, and a lot of reciprocative Indian representatives too. And very potent points were made in terms of the possibilities that exist in expanding business between these two countries, particularly the kind of not only exports that India could have with Russia, but also the kind of businesses that could be jointly set up. A lot of talk of JVs was there as well. Ramesh wasn't there, and they talked about how the need for a workforce can also be fulfilled by quickly training Indian workforce in, of course, the Russian language, because that would be a necessity, and soft skills as well.
Absolutely. The Prime Minister, in his statement there, spoke about the strategic trust between India and Russia, and he says that is their biggest strength, number one. Number two, he says India has undergone a mindset reform, not just administrative reform, in terms of approaching business or ease of doing business. He spoke about GST reform, goods and services reform, and making less compliance requirements for industry. He also spoke about 5 proposals that he made for the India-Russia Trade and Commerce Partnership, starting with 1, logistics and connectivity. He spoke about the International North-South Transport Corridor, the Northern Sea Route, as well as the Chennai-Vladivostok Corridor, the Maritime Corridor. He said this will, investing in these corridors will reduce the transit time and also bring down the costs of shipment of goods between India and Russia, number one. Number two, digital technology. He spoke about a virtual trade corridor to make customs clearances quickly. Number three, possibility of exports of marine products from India to Russia. In that context, he spoke about cold chain logistics and deep sea fishing. Fourth, he spoke about automobiles, in particular EVs, which can be manufactured jointly by India and Russia, either in India or Russia. And he went on to speak about pharmaceuticals and, last but not the least, textiles. So he gave 5 proposals there to boost India's exports to Russia and also boost the trade prospects going forward between India and Russia as well.
Definitely. And all this, of course, brought together by the thought that there is, of course, that trust factor and also a complementarity where all these possibilities are concerned between India and Russia. It's not just about the kind of business that India and Russia have been already doing, but expanding the scope of that. He gave the example of auto sector, where he said India has that capability of making, it's a leader, market leader in making EVs as well as two-wheelers and in CNG as well. And he said Russia has capabilities, it's a big producer in advanced materials, and these can come together, and then this sort of a cooperation could be explored. We have our guests with us, both Ambassador Amrit Lugoon and Ravi Joshi. If I could ask you, Ambassador Lugoon, do you think that these are the things that can, as then Prime Minister Modi also said, achieve the goal of taking the trade that these two countries have to $100 billion even before the time frame that has been set, which is 2030?
Yeah, definitely. As I had mentioned, the target of $100 billion by 2030 has been made. It was reiterated during the last IRGC meeting, which was held when our EM had gone to Moscow. We have already achieved now close to $68 billion. So adding another 30 in doesn't look far away. And especially one good thing is in both the deliberations, from both the sides, the real problems have been identified, like the issues of payment, faster customs clearance, the logistics. So both sides are reiterating and committing to make things faster, that President Putin make it clear Indian side. And also both sides are also, one more thing is they are saying that they can jointly collaborate for benefit of other countries, especially Africa.
Indeed.
That's a big potential which used not to be spoken of in earlier. We used to speak with Japan, but with Russia, this is coming up. So definitely a good beginning, and it's very achievable because the problems are being identified, and the our Prime Minister identified real core 5 areas where where things can be in the past years.
Right. Very quickly, Mr. Joshi, you get the last word. Your final concluding thoughts on the way the summit has shaped up so far, including the most recently the India-Russia Business Forum as well.
Well, Ramesh, it's not at all difficult to achieve $100 billion target.
Right.
Before 2020, our trade was only our 2021 when President Putin came and when the Doordarshan summit took place, they announced their target of $30 billion. But we reached that barrier long back, long before the target year. So now we will definitely reach $100 billion in a matter of 2 or 3 days, 2 or 3 years.
Okay, we seem to have had some issues there at Ravi Joshi's end in terms of communicating with him, but clearly he was saying how rapid progress can be made on multiple fronts where trade is concerned and even others, because India and Russia have that sort of willingness to do it. They've been partners for a long time, and to expand this partnership at this stage is a fairly easy task, to the levels of the goals set, and perhaps these can be breached as well in the coming days. And that's a very positive note to end this particular segment of our programming.
Absolutely.
Special programming on the visit of the Russian President Ramesh. And let me thank our guests as well, Ambassador Lagoon and Ravi Joshi, for joining us at this point. We will keep you updated on all that is coming in on this visit and much else as well. Keep watching DD India.
Thanks for watching.